no blame, no burden of responsibility, folks. That's what our message for gun owners tonight as we consider what happened today in the tragic shooting in Nashville, Tennessee, where a transgender woman transitioned, I guess, to man, walked into a Christian school and, according to media reports, murdered 6 Christians. Let's talk about that here in tonight's live show.
Yeah, if you haven't seen the news yet today, guys, we have a big story out of Nashville. You've probably already seen much of this online right now, but I'm just going to read off some of the details of what happened just to kind of paint the picture here. We've got, as you said, Chris, a woman who transitioned into trying to become a man, walked into the Covenant Presbyterian Church School right outside of Nashville, Tennessee this morning at 10:13 a.m. She, whatever, was allowed to live for the next 12, 13 minutes, terrorizing the school. Reports indicate that he pulled the fire alarm as a diversion. I'm going to get this wrong all night. That it pulled a fire alarm and as a diversion tactic to get the kids to come racing out of their school rooms. This was a very devious level of tactical awareness from this piece of trash. And then as these kids ran out, it opened fire. I saw reports that it had 2 rifles and a handgun. That had possessed detailed maps of the school, had been doing surveillance, came in through a side door, which was unlocked, put time into this. A former student of the school, so he knew exactly where he was trying to go once he got inside the property and into the school. And as you said, 3 children died and 3 teachers died on the scene. The shooter's name has been identified as Aubrey Hale. That, I believe, is the transgendered name. We have a photograph maybe of Aiden we can flash on the screen. Proud pronouns listed on its LinkedIn platform as he, him, and now murderer should be added to that. And again, it's moments away from downtown Nashville, a very affluent area of the city. But yeah, 3 kids dead, 3 adults, 3 teachers dead. The headmaster of the school is dead. And already we're seeing, of course, the radical left is trying to blame us, trying to condemn us. You have Joe Biden today in the White House blaming us for what their radical leftist, psychotic, chemical-laden nut job did today in Nashville.
Yeah.
Well, there used to be a time not too long ago where the left, the gun grabbers, would wait till the story came out, and they were hoping it was some straight white Christian man, type like us, and they would hope that would be the case. And if it ended up not being the case, then they wouldn't talk about the story. But it turns out that most of these shootings are taking place from career criminals, felons who shouldn't have had guns, people with priors, people who were let out by Soros-funded prosecutors, transvestites. These are the people committing these shootings. And so the left has learned over the last 5 to 10 years that the moment it happens, they got to get out in front of the story, start screaming about gun control. And then, you know what, if it doesn't fit their narrative, well, they already got the story out there. It's already on the front of CNN and NBC and every other state level liberal rag newspaper. And it's once again one of their voting bloc, one of their supporters, one of their radical leftists. And at this point, they don't seem to really care.
I thought, instantly when something like this happens, obviously I don't know what page you're watching this on, everybody, right now, but we instantly take to Twitter and start monitoring these things. And instantly, it was an instant reaction by the radical left. They all started saying, oh, yeah, but blame all of your problems on drag queens and transgenders. And this is before it came out that this woman, I want to get that right. This is a born biological female who pretended that she was a man, probably on all these blockers and testosterone shots and all this garbage. But they were trying to blame us who believe in traditional as God created you, man and woman. And they instantly jump to that. They're like, and my point here is that they show by their instant reaction that to the left, this has always been, it's all about a culture war against everything that made America a great country, the traditional family, the Christian faith, all of these different things. And so we got to see that insanity on full display in the moments right after the shooting happened. You can go back on some of these tweets now and see all kinds of comments. Boy, this aged poorly. Yes,
well,
it
I mean,
did.
this was clearly a target of Christians. That's what this was. This was a trans person who hates Christians, because we Christians believe that there's only two genders. There's boys and there's girls. There's men and there's women. And the radical left, these people push this narrative, oh, hate this and all of these things. They're the ones constantly whipping up their base, right? It's the rage of the radical left. We saw this stuff during the summer of violence. We see this stuff play out in Chicago and in all these cities across the country. There's this rage against conservatism, against people who have traditional morals and values, the things that made America. So this was a straight up attack on Christians, Christian children, 9-year-olds in this school,
9-year-olds.
And the left won't say a damn thing about it. They refuse to acknowledge it. They refuse to call this. Everything's a hate crime, right up until a trans person walks into a Christian school and murders Christian children in their Christian school classroom.
Well, they're not going to call it out because they're the ones who are calling for this. They're the ones who are targeting, people like us. They're targeting innocent people. We had Kamala Harris before she was the VP urging people to burn down, America in the 2020 mostly peaceful riots. We had a screenshot. This is Jane Fonda last week, 2 weeks ago, urging people to murder pro-life advocates. This is on the news 2 weeks ago. Right before we began the show tonight, I saw this screenshot. Rand Paul's staffer, Senator Rand Paul from Kentucky, staffer was stabbed in broad daylight on Saturday in Washington, D.C., stabbed in the head, stabbed in the neck. I mean, Chris, you and I were about a half a mile from where this took place. We were walking off of Capitol Hill on Friday. I mean, these people are intentionally stirring up a cauldron of rage, not against, against their sides, obviously against conservatives. It's against anybody who stands against their agenda. So, of course, they're not going to call it out. They are trying to exacerbate this.
Yeah, they've been sowing these seeds of aggression, of violence for a long time. It started with microaggressions, and then it became hate crimes, and then it became, if you're not for gender affirming care, that means you want trans people dead. Christians just want trans people to die. That's the narrative. That's what these people are brainwashed with. And that's why, folks, this video is no guilt, no blame. Gun owners have no guilt. We should have no guilt, no blame in this. This is completely their fault. They created this system. They have twisted this culture. And, what happened today is a total, what happened is just, it comes from that. Everything that they've been doing, that's what led to this moment today.
Yeah, we talk about this frequently on some of our live streams here. And a lot of people are like, oh my goodness, our school system is broken. Our culture is broken. No, this is exactly what they want. This is exactly what they intended it. Think back to some of these insane nut jobs. The guy who shot up the congressional DC baseball game, radical leftist Democrat. Think of the guy who shot up the Oregon district in downtown Dayton, Ohio in August of 2019. Radical leftist Democrat. Dylan Roof from Charleston, South Carolina. Radical nut job. Parkland, Florida. Another insane leftist nut job. And yet, and so their system. And by the way, if you look at a lot of these shootings, you see that they are almost to a shooting. They are happening in radical left, Democrat controlled counties and holes all across America. Their system is generating this stuff, and they are absolutely using it to try to cram gun control down our throats and foist the blame on us. So we have said this before. I said it the day after the day of the Dayton, Ohio shooting, and we have to say it now. again, over and over and over. When you're watching these videos, when you're watching the fake news media, like Rob just said over there, do not feel blame. Do not feel guilt. What you should feel is a righteous indignation.
Yep.
It's okay to feel that. It's okay to feel angry when you watch Christians, little 9-year-old children, get murdered by insane activists pursuing an ideology of cultural destruction. It's okay. It's okay. Back in the day when the church did a job, they used to preach that kind of stuff. But we wanted to come on here and make sure that you guys were hearing this stuff so that you're not tempted to kind of get into that box that they want you in. They want you to feel defensive. They want you to sit there and go, oh, well, the guns are used in more situations to defend innocent life. No, at that point, you've lost the argument. You got to get up on that horse. You got to say, absolutely not. This is on you. It's on you and your system that you guys are creating. We will not back down. We will not apologize. And no, you don't get to pass your assault weapons ban, well, air quotes, that Karine Jean-Pierre, as Tucker likes to call that degenerate in the White House press briefing room. They don't get to pass that.
Right.
Nope.
Well, remember, the statistics still remain that 96% of all of these shootings are taking place in gun-free zones. I mean, one of the reports that we read today said that this trans shooter considered shooting up a different school, but decided that this school was an easier target than the other school was. So they act like none of that stuff plays in. That if it wasn't a gun-free zone, wouldn't have made a difference. The shooter was going to show up and blow people away anyway. No, it's not true. These people are planning this out, and they're executing their plan to execute people. So we say remove the gun-free zones and allow teachers who want to carry to carry. And then when you say that, they go, oh my gosh, you want to put bazookas in the hands of teachers and force people to carry guns. No, we're simply saying that if a teacher wants to carry and wants to do that to protect themselves and the children in the classroom, if we're trusting our kids' souls and lives to these teachers,
exactly.
Maybe we should trust them to get a little bit of training and carry a pistol concealed, to defend children, if that should happen. But they don't want to talk about any of those things. They scream from the high heavens, assault weapons bans, like that would do a single thing. It wouldn't do anything. And that's the point. You see this every time they pass a gun control bill. They say they pregame it and they say, well, we know that this bill won't stop all crimes. In fact, it may not even stop many crimes.
If it saves one life.
But if it saves one life, it's a good start. And then the moment their gun control bill doesn't work, then they come back and say, this background checks, it's not enough. These red flag laws, it's not enough.
We need more money for enforcement. We need to have more money.
Need to have more money. And hey, this assault weapons ban that bans the future sales of AR-15s and AR-15 style rifles. Well, that's not enough either. Now, what we really need to do to really have an impact is go back and take the ones that are already in existence. So they do this and they do this and they do this. Go ahead, Chris.
Before we get to go on to the next kind of talking point here, there's a guy named Steve in the comment section saying, FYI, this happened at the Covenant School, a Presbyterian private school. Presbyterians support the LGBTQ community. You for blah, 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 blah. He's spouting off in there, and he does not know that this church was part of the PCA, the Presbyterian Church in America. It's a conservative Presbyterian denomination. It's not those PCUSA ones that are out there flying these flags. So you actually don't know what you're talking about, Steve. So go somewhere else and spew your nonsense. This is a conservative Christian school, conservative Christian church that certainly does not support that worldview and ideology. But before I pass this off to somebody else, Ben, you had said something that I thought was an excellent idea. I personally would have loved to have watched a teacher with a bazooka send this degenerate Aubrey Hale to her maker in chunks today. Had we had the opportunity to see that, that would have been fantastic. Yes, arm the teachers. You bet.
I mean, at some point, like, and we were talking, Chris, a couple hours ago. I mean, we grew up in Northwest Iowa. It was basically Norman Rockwell came into our town and he sat on Main Street and he watched our town for a couple of days. And that's how he decided to go out there and do the rest of his work. Couldn't conceive of a situation like this when we grew up in Northwest Iowa. Of course, we're all a long ways from that time now. We're a long ways from that area now. But at some point, teachers and more importantly, parents need to get real with what's going on these days. I mean, this is an entire country with walking time bombs all over the place. It has nothing to do with gun laws. It has nothing to do with gun control. It's these people who have been taught, force-fed, a diet that there is no God, there is no right and wrong. Your forefathers were evil. Your country is evil. You should hate everything good and holy and beautiful and lovely, and you should rage against it any way you can. And so then we're surprised when a person then who goes down the road of trying to change their gender and jack their body full of God knows what kind of chemicals decides, you know what, I'm going to go and murder a bunch of kids in a school. A Christian school attached to a Christian church, a conservative Christian church in Nashville. I mean, if you're a parent today and you have your kids in a public school system or a public facility, Christian, public, you know, whatever. In other words, if they're not homeschooled, you got to get very real with what's going on. This is not going to stop. It's going to get worse, and it's going to get worse, and it's going to get worse. And so if you are a part of your church security team, or if you're part of a church, your elders board, your deacons, whatever, I mean, I would be literally this weekend, if you haven't already done so, I would literally have contractors, this is not an exaggeration, in my church this weekend, poking holes in the wall. I'd be putting vertical AR-15 gun safes at multiple spots around the church, discreetly hidden, and I would have M4s in there, scars, something nice, ready to rock and roll, or maybe you bring them on Sunday morning, whatever, and you put them in there. I would have the most hard target that you could possibly imagine, and I'd have men there who knew by God how to use them, and I would tell them, you know, this is your corner, this is your post. And if you're going to have your kids go to a private school like this, I mean, again, no one's blaming anybody here from what happened, but for God's sakes, you know, like, get these targets hardened up. We do not live in Norman Rockwell's America anymore. We live in 2023. It is the era of the drugs that have spun these kids insane and the laws that have encouraged them to go out there and commit mass acts of violence. It will not stop. It's not going to go away. And we better get very real about our churches, our schools. These targets need to be hardened up. I would literally have rifles there. Hell, I would have in the supply closet, I would have chest plate carriers for my security detail. And hell, you can put First Baptist Church in Velcro right across the front. You know, welcome to our church. I don't, you know, whatever. But these monsters need to know that this is a target hardened location, and if you come in with a gun in your hand, we're going to put you down hard, and we're not going to wait around, not waiting for the first shot. We'll be the first shot, and we're going to keep our children and our women and our vulnerable people safe. This is ridiculous.
Well, what Rob said was exactly right, and that goes to your point, Aaron, is they have fostered this, they have fed this, and they are contributing to the total degrading of our society and this increase in violent crime and the potential for violent crime. So at the precise time that we're living in a more violent society, our cities are getting more violent, all of them. Chicago, Minneapolis, Detroit, New York, take your pick. They're all getting more violent, more dangerous all the time. As criminals are taught that there's no repercussions for crime, they get let off. The shooting that happened in Michigan a few weeks ago, the criminal who went and shot up MSU, he had a prior. He got arrested for illegally carrying a firearm. He was supposed to get a felony charge. He pled it down. The prosecutor let him off on a misdemeanor. He should not have had those firearms that he did when he shot up MSU. but he did, because this is the culture that's being created by the left now. So at the very time that our country is getting more and more dangerous, and we're only talking about domestic stuff. We're not even talking about the rise of China and the fall of America on the world stage. We're not even talking about those things and those potentials. At the very time they're doing this, the left is hyper amped up to take away our guns. And this is exactly the time when we say absolutely no. We will not abide by your tyranny. We will not support your tyrannical laws. We will not bow our heads and apologize for things that we didn't do wrong. Like Chris said at the beginning of this video, no guilt, no blame, no shame rests on gun owners, and you cannot have our guns, because everything's at stake now. Everything's at stake. I mean, we all have children. And protecting our kids is maybe my number one thought every single day, is making sure my 4 boys are safe and that they're taken care of. And I won't give you my guns. You can't outlaw them. And if you do, I will not pass them over. And we all, as Americans, should stand up and say no, absolutely no, no apologies, and no compromise, not for the left, not on the right. None of it. It's what we have to do this.
It's almost like we are living through the manifestation of Paul Harvey's "If I Were the Devil" speech. We are watching these things play out in front of us real time now, as the left has done everything culturally to ensure moral bankruptcy in this country. And so a lot of what we've been talking about here is morality based, ethics based. And I think I know that all 4 of us here are Christians. And so these attacks that we see today were certainly done on people like us by the radical left. But and so you can't change what we're talking about legislatively. There's no legislative fix. The radical left will say gun control is the fix, but we know that in human history, governments murder people by the millions, whereas this thug, this little transgender woman who wanted to be a man, she murdered 6 people, but like last weekend in Chicago, I think 6 people were murdered and another 12 people were wounded. My point is, there is no legislative fix here. It's only a foil that's being used by the radical left. But one of the things that any state legislature could do, especially if you're a committee chairman on like a government oversight committee that had subpoena power, which the majority of the states that you're watching this video on right now do, is they could pull these freaking pharmaceutical company CEOs right into their committee rooms and demand that they give the test results, their own test results on the effects of these psychotropic drugs and now these transgender gender blockers and all these different drugs. They could be forced to show what their own test results show. But it's never happened before. To my knowledge, not one single state legislature in America has ever pulled these people in, even though one of the most unifying facts about all of these killers is their previous use of all these different drugs. But no, to the radical left, to the media, the fake news media, boy, they got on this in lightning speed today, didn't they? Oh, the whole story.
You hit on this, Chris. I wanted to hit on it again though. Like, behind this wall of bullshit is tyranny unlike this country has never experienced. Even when the King of England was the sovereign, supposedly, of this country. What we have been immune to as the American people for 246 years now is waiting right across the wall of our Second Amendment. And as you said, Chris, this piece of trash killed 6 people today in Nashville in the metro. But what's waiting beyond that, the tyranny that our own government clearly wants to unleash on their own people, the same tyranny we saw all across the globe in 2021 and 2022, when you saw people in camps and you saw soldiers roaming the streets, that only didn't happen here because we're the most well-armed population on earth. And nobody should have a clue in their mind and a question left in their mind now after we watched what happened in 2021. These people pick a governor in a blue state. Hell, pick a governor in a red state. Yeah. These people are out of control maniacs. I got off a plane in New York State, heading to the Capitol in Albany in 2021, and I literally had to duck soldiers in fatigues with M4s at the airport, trying to put me into a funnel to get me into a COVID, monitoring system. We had this stuff all across the country, all across the world, and this is not going to stop. If we lose our right to keep and bear arms, we will never get these freedoms back. And so as we sit there and we grieve with these parents and we grieve with the victims' families and loved ones at the school in Nashville, we must realize this is being used to disarm our entire population. And if we play with this, if we do not call this out for what it is, thus the purpose of tonight's show, we are going to look back and remember, or our children, even worse, are going to look back and remember what it was like when dad could buy an AR-15, when dad could have more than 30 rounds of ammo in the house, when dad could actually have one of those incredibly rare 30-round magazines. These are the tools of our freedom, and if we lose them, there is no getting them back.
Yeah, I don't know what to say after that.
I mean, we've just seen the rage. I really just want to dial in on that. We have seen the rage of the left. They hate us so badly. They would kill us all if they could do it.
Oh, for sure.
They hate us, and they want us destroyed. They want us under their thumb, under their heel. I remember it's a kind of a famous video in Minnesota where I live was the during the riots, there was like fleets of stormtroopers marching down this neighborhood. Nobody was outside, and some guy stepped out. He was just holding his phone in front of him, and he stepped out on his front porch, and he was just filming them. They go, "Get back in the house!" and they all start sandbagging him. Standing on his own porch, he falls back into his house. His window shatters, and "Get back in the house!" It's like you've at this point you've lost your freedom of movement. You've lost your freedom to do what you want to do and to live the life you want to live, to own the guns you want to own, to run your business, to live your life. They want to destroy us all. They want to destroy this country. That's why, I'm 31 years old, and I remember a completely different world than what we're living in right now.
Yeah.
It's going downhill so fast, so quickly. You couldn't even believe it. Stuff that people took for granted, things that people thought were normal just 5-10 years ago, are totally out of bounds now. You can't talk about certain things anymore. You can't say things out loud because you'll be canceled. You'll be shut down. You'll be shut up. You'll lose your job. You'll be ousted from society. You'll be removed from social media. You'll be a pariah. This is what these people want for all of us. And so we have to recognize that while we are decent people, I'm a naturally peaceful person. You have to recognize that the enemies of freedom are filled with a rage and a violence, and a desire to crush freedom and, like Aaron said, goodness and decency and morality. And we have to recognize that and take precautions, stand up, fight back, and tell them that they're not going to get away with this, and we will fight back.
No,
not going to happen.
I don't know, Rob. What do you think? You think Republicans are going to step up to the plate here and whale this one out of the park?
Part of me just doubts that highly. The Republicans that I know, and I'm sure most of you guys know, they're just kind of quisling losers, and maybe you guys in the comments probably know that too. They just like to they kind of just cower and just you recoil in fear when things like this happen. They're afraid of overstepping and upsetting people. They're the types that just want to go along to get along and just kind of say, "Oh, I'm so sorry about what happened," and then just kind of leave it at that. Not going one way or the other. But in a perfect world, we would totally have elected politicians on our side that would be going on offense and totally pushing back against a lot of these narratives. But I don't think it's going to happen. I know. I was just going to say, I know we were just talking earlier about, how Speaker McCarthy, he's going to be holding that fundraiser for that gun grabber in Pennsylvania, Brian Fitzpatrick, here in a few days. I heard something about him canceling a hearing to try to smack the ATF around a little bit. And then I don't know in some of our states what's going on, but I just don't think that they're really going to move forward with anything that's positive. If anything, the Republican inclination is to just retreat when things like this happen. And so that's what I think is going to happen here.
Yeah. To be clear, they may not want to push forward, but by gosh, whatever page you're watching on right now, these organizations are dang sure going to make sure that they do push forward, or else pay the political price for it. I mean, how many times have we gotten into this situation where, we're pushing a pro-gun agenda, but then they use this as an excuse. They use gun control. They use mass shootings as an excuse to sandbag good legislation. We're not letting them do that. We're absolutely not letting them do that. We're not, like, for example, in Pennsylvania, we're not going to let them push gun control as a result of this transgender woman murdering 6 Christians. It's just not going to happen. In Ohio, we're going to keep pushing SEPA, whether they like it or not, and they can pay the price in the elections if they don't. So
right. Well, and here's the other thing too. I was going to say even worse, I think, than Republicans being in full retreat after this incident. I think that there are plenty of Republicans out there that are just kind of masquerading as Republicans, the rhinos out there. We've got several of them here in Ohio that I think are just chomping at the bit to push gun control. I mean, even our own governor, Mike DeWine, has pushed gun control in the past.
Sure. Yeah.
We've got some Republicans in our state Senate that have actively pushed red flag gun confiscation. And I know that's been the case in Indiana, Florida, to just name a few, that gun control has not passed in some of these states without Republican support. Gun control would not have passed in Congress if not for Republican support last year. Yes. So
we saw it last week in Michigan. I mean, we had Republicans. You were telling me this, Ben, the other day, that Republicans joined over with Governor Whitmer and voted for the gun control agenda there in Lansing. So, I mean, if there was ever a challenge to the gun rights community, and I think that it's already well underway, which is the only good news, I think, is that there was a time where, the gun owners kind of sat back and trusted the GOP because it's the GOP and it's not the damn Democrats. And, that may have been a time when that philosophy maybe would work, but that's gone. And so while I can get angry at the Democrats, man, the rage that politically speaking that we should have and the angst we should have towards politicians is the Republicans in blue states that enable it and the Republicans in red states that retreat whole hog in moments just like this. This is what you're supposed to do when you're a leader, right? When you're a leader, you're a state rep, you're a state senator, you're a governor, it's your by God job to stand in the gap for your constituents and say, we will not let your freedom suffer for the actions of a deranged madman or madwoman in this case, whatever. We will not let this happen. Instead, all we have is weakness all across the platform right now from the Republican Party. As you mentioned, Rob, they're pulling the hearing tomorrow to question the ATF on their unconstitutional mandate from the White House to ban pistol braces. We're going to probably see Republican committee chairmen in state level fights pull bills over the next day or two. We'll have to wait and see. This is the exact opposite of what we should have. So if you're a gun owner in a red state right now, pick up the phone and just, burn the phone lines down, demand action from these people, because there's not but so many times to let this ball fall through our fingers, and we're going to lose the game, and we're not going to have any freedoms left. And it's going to happen quick. It's going to happen.
And this is exactly what the left relies on every single time, right? Shooting happens. And if you look at the rhetoric from the left, now it's, they used to just say, we need to pass some gun control. Now they go, how many more times? And they use this exasperated, this is outrageous that we haven't banned every gun in America by now. They use this rhetoric that says this is the last time, and they bank on the Republicans just backpedaling and shutting up and hoping that it blows over. But what Aaron said right there is exactly spot on. if we shut up, if we back down, if we get guilty, if we start feeling like we're kind of to blame, if we allow our Republican representatives to not do their jobs on days like today, it's only a matter of time before the media mob and their narrative wins, because the next time the shooting happens, it's not going to matter that it's a transvestite who's hopped up on leftism, who went into a Christian school and murdered Christian children. It's not going to matter, because the left did this enough times and the right retreated enough times that now's the time when they're finally going to ban this gun or that gun, or confiscate this gun or that gun and everything else. So always, and we hear this from a lot of gun owners, unfortunately, when we say contact your senator, contact your state rep, contact your congressman, tell them to do X, Y, and Z, support this pro-gun bill or co-sponsor this or that. We get these responses where gun owners will write back and say, oh, my senator is this great guy, I don't need to contact him, I know he's good to go. And those are precisely the people you need to contact and say, you say you're good on guns? Show me today. Show me today. I want to see your press release. I want to see your press conference. I want to see your video. I want to see you coming out in front of this and saying there will be no compromise on this stuff. You cannot sit back and do nothing simply because your guy is, in your mind, a good guy. Yep. They need to get as much pressure as the left. So whoever that is for you, your state rep, your state senator, your congressman, your U.S. senator, contact those people. Contact them tomorrow and tell them you want them to support the Second Amendment, refuse to apologize for this, and move forward with Second Amendment legislation or hearings to come after the ATF or whatever the agenda is. Get it done for gun owners and push the left back.
Well, I don't have anything else to add on top of that, other than the fact that, folks, as bad as it is that 6 Christians were murdered by a deranged leftist transgender person today, don't ever forget that the reason why we fight, like Aaron has said, as I have said, as Ben and Rob have all said here tonight, the reason why we defend these rights is because governments are the biggest takers of innocent life in the 20th century. Oh, by any conservative estimates, over 65 million people were murdered by their governments. That's why we fight for the Second Amendment. And that's why we came on here tonight to remind you that you have no guilt, no blame, and no responsibility to bear in this. So thank you for watching, everybody. Please, if you agree with the worldview and what we've talked about here tonight, please share this video with all of your friends. You can tag them right in the comment section. It makes it very easy for you guys to do. But we will be back with more as this fight unfolds. Thank you for watching, folks. We'll be back with more next time. Take care and stay free.